We are an NGO, and we have this children and youth center in Samshui, and so we have been established since 2013, serving underprivileged children and youth and their families. Our our mission really is to make sure that children and youth living under poverty have access to equal opportunities, and so that they would be able to reach their full potential. So that's roughly about 20 to 25%, because as the number of families living under poverty goes up, so obviously the children who are living in those families would go up as well. But I would say the percentage wouldn't be less than 20%. And equivalent to numerical numbers is around 250,000 approximately. I think the major difficulty, as I see it, is especially in the education system, in the local education system. In the classes, the number of students per class is quite high compared to international schools. So we're talking about 30 to 40 kids in a class. So obviously they don't get a lot of attention, and this in the class. So if you are a top, like if you perform, you're a top performer. So obviously you get noticed. So you may have 10% of the class maximum who are top performers, and then you may have another 5% who are the lowest or at the bottom. And the teachers usually notice the really, you always fail. Teachers will never forget you. And then you have this big bulk in the middle who actually are neither very good nor very bad. And they don't get much attention from teachers or from the school. They don't get any motivation either. And the way the curriculum is set in the local school is it's very, very crammed. So it's almost like a robotic learning. They have to memorize all these, and to them, the education is about learning to pass an exam. So that's how the local education system works. Now we see a lot of these kids stuck in the middle of this crowd, when as they move on to secondary schools, they actually lose all momentum of motivation, coupled with the the burden of facing exams. They don't have any self-value. They don't have a very high self-value. So they think, well, why should I try? I'm not going to get anywhere in life. I come from a poor family. I don't see, my mother may be a cleaner, and I think I'm just going to become a cleaner for the rest of my life. So why do I bother? So this is the very difficult, I think this is one of the most difficult things to encourage these kids that, you don't have to be stuck in this situation. There are other ways and other means that you can do better in life. But that also involves a change of the mindset, as well as letting them see that there are opportunities out there. So for example, if I remember when I was a kid, I came from a very not a rich family as a kid. I've got 4 brothers and sisters. And my father was the only breadwinner in the family, and my mother was a housewife. So we have 4 kids to feed, and I was lucky. I went to a very good school, a local school, a very good English school, and at the time the school is free, so that's fine. But when you go to a school with such good quality education, you see things that you aspire to, and you think, oh, for example, I thought I really like to learn piano. I thought, that's really nice. But when I went home and I asked my mom, oh, can I learn piano? She said no. I was maybe about 13, 14, and I couldn't understand why. I said, why? She said, because we can't afford it. I can't afford to pay for your piano lessons, and we can't afford to buy a piano. So, and this is not important. Studying is important. So off you go. Now, this is from my personal experience. So you can imagine these kids here nowadays, they maybe not so much the piano, but there are still people who want to learn piano, and we provide the piano lessons for them. But there may be, kids who may even think that, well, I actually want to learn more about digital media, how to manage social media, or how to play with set up a website, for example. They don't have that access. So who can they turn to? Nobody. And then that's why they would feel more and more frustrated. And then they start losing confidence in themselves. And, they think that they're not going to be ending up to anything. So I think that is one of the very difficult issues the kids are facing right now. And after COVID another problem exists is what we call the digital learning gap. Before, the local system did not rely on the digital media at all. They didn't need to have a computer at home. And all of a sudden, after COVID, everything is online. So they have to start learning online. They have no computers, as you probably had seen a lot in the news. They didn't have computers. Wi-Fi is slow. Parents didn't know how to handle it. Not even schools know how to handle it. So it's now a year down the road after COVID. It has become, the learning online thing has become to stay. And yet, because kids with more resources actually get better know-how on learning how to use the Zoom and the online learning, these kids become falling behind more because they don't have those resources. So the gap actually widens more and more after COVID. Because a lot of these families, they cannot afford to the parents cannot afford to pay for anything outside of school. I mean, primary school in Hong Kong is free, but if, let's say if the kids, they encounter problems with the homework, and then they go home, they don't have a tutor at home. They have no one to ask. And the parents' education level is generally quite low, so they wouldn't be able to teach them. And that would cause a lot of conflict between the parents and the kids. And it becomes quite frustrated every day. Academic is not, it is a way for them to achieve a better education so that they will eventually get a better job. But that's not the only way, because there are other things that are equally important. So especially the extracurricular activities. Now, if you think about a family a family of 4 to 5 even, who are living in a public housing estate or even subdivided unit, and a lot of times there's only the father is going out to work and the mother is a housewife. So you can imagine the amount of household income is quite limited. We're talking about a family who's living under the poverty line is probably around Hong Kong under $13,000 per month for a whole family. And out of that amount of money, they have to pay rent, they have to pay for food, transportation, and everything comes out of there. So where is the extra money for them to attend extracurricular activities? And for kids who are more not living under the poverty line, is almost like a basic that they would at least have a tutor for some of the subjects, and they would have a musical instrument to learn, and they would have the sports, maybe even more than one sports activity, and all the other outings to go to. These families, they can't afford it. So for them, parents, their priority will be only focused on trying to make ends meet. The parents themselves are not as educated, so they cannot see beyond what they are, and the vision is very limited. And also because they're most of the time and their mind is spent on thinking how to make ends meet. They don't really know how to. They don't have expertise in parenting. So common things like scolding the kids and, you know, telling them to do their homework and shouting at them, and especially coupled with living in a very small environment, that doesn't help. So all these things added up together would definitely affect the child as they're growing up in that sort of environment. And if it continues in that and they have no way of finding their happiness, that would actually affect them mentally. So you can imagine as they grow up, they probably think that, well, they become quite demotivated. They don't think that they can get out of that poverty cycle, and they would not try hard because they don't think they can. So that's a lack of self-confidence. So all these kinds of things will trigger from child poverty. And one of the ways to do that is through education, better quality education, as well as extracurricular activities. So what we're trying to do here, one of the ways is to help them to relieve that stress. So when the kids, they finish school, they come here for after school homework support. So we have tutors here who help them with the three major subjects, English, Chinese, and mathematics. And so if they encounter any problems with homework, we'll help them with it. And then by the time they go home, then they are quite free, you know, from the stress of homework, and the parents are as well. So they come back from work and they can enjoy more quality time together rather than you know, stressing over homework. So that's one of the major things we try to do to help them with their relieving their stress and also helping the kids with their academic burden. So at our center, we run roughly about over 500 programs per year. So we have 4 different aspects of programs that we provide to these families. Education is one, but outside of education, we also provide English classes for them. So from phonics to grammar to conversational English, maybe even reading English books to them, because we believe helping them with an extra language can help them advance their opportunities later on when they're looking for a job. We also provide lots of different STEM classes for them because STEM is not a part of the curriculum at school. And STEM is also getting more and more popular, and also has been proven to be very beneficial to the kids in terms of helping them to develop their scientific mind and creativity. So we also provide STEM programs for them. On the extracurricular activity side, we provide empowerment programs for them, such as we have, I think, over 10 different kinds of sports programs for them. We have ping pong, badminton, swimming, rugby, football, rope skipping, floor curling, hip hop. So, and then we also provide musical instruments. We have violin lessons, ukulele lessons, piano lessons, singing lessons. For youth, secondary school kids, we just started some more interesting instruments for slightly older kids, such as drums, electric guitar, electric piano. So slightly different instruments. We also have art classes for them. We have drawing classes, multimedia classes, art and craft for the younger ones. And we also provide programs for the families, especially for the parents, because the third way that we think is able to help with eradicating child poverty is actually educating the parents. And what we try to do here is we often run parenting workshops for the parents. So we tell them, okay, how to improve their communication with the children. And we also organize parent-child activities so that would actually create a more beneficial relationship between the child and the mother. So for example, we have parent-child yoga here. So, and then we have parent-child cooking classes as well. And these are very popular because, you know, that's a quality time for the parents and the kids. We also work with some big companies on different CSR programs. So we recently did an English conversation program for 3 months online on Zoom. So every week we would have the kids online, and we would have some volunteers from the corporates. So they would go online and speak English, native English speakers, and they would speak to these kids. Now these kids, because English is not really emphasized in the Band 3 schools, so they rarely ever get a chance to speak English. And also to speak to a stranger in a foreign language is quite scary. So we provided that opportunity for them for a number of reasons, to improve their English, to also increase their self-confidence in terms of being able to speak in a different language, and also to improve their social skills, that they're not afraid to face a foreigner or even a stranger and be able to speak fluently. Now they can register as an individual member. It can be a child of 6 to 18 years old, or it can be a whole family of 5. And we charge them a very minimum fee to become, if they're underprivileged child, we charge them $29 a year to just become a member, and they can join the classes. If it's a family, I think we charge $100 for the family for a whole year. And right now, we have about, if we talk about individual members, we have about over 1,800 members. Families, we have about 600 families. For children, roughly around, I think approximately 500 children of 6 to 12 years old, and another 200 around 13 to 16 years old. Honestly, to tackle the child poverty problem is a huge task. And the government is an ongoing exercise. I think the government needs to, improve the policies, the education policy, the curriculum, and also maybe allowing, in terms of financially, the government can, perhaps increase the child allowance for the low income families. So those are government policies that they need to set. I think for the public, I can only say that if they are more aware of this issue, there are a couple of ways they can offer their assistance. Number one is they can volunteer more. So there are lots of NGOs in Hong Kong where they can offer their volunteer hours to help. They're all different kinds. And for us, for example, we run reading programs, English reading programs, and we recruit volunteers to do that. And of course, one way to help is to donate money, because we are a small NGO. We're not a big NGO. We don't get any money from the government. So all the programs that we provide for the kids and their families, we have to raise that money, and then we put it back into the program so that the kids can benefit from it. And so times are not easy for small NGOs like us. So we do encourage people to donate. What we would need most would be books for primary school. So would be from year 1 to year 6. Books would be one, and if anyone has any spare iPads, I think would be good, secondhand iPads.